metagames and different playstyles that look to be tripping Kin up. Again, I will say though, most of the plays we have agreed with him from him along the way. It's mainly just been the lineup that's been a little bit of a question mark.
Lineups and the ban decisions is a key one. We saw Kin leaving up Warrior, being one of the first to bring Priest when it was not really in its refined list, and perhaps when it was not so well suited in the meta just yet. And now we see Kin defaulting to what looks to be one of the most standard lineups for this weekend, just lacking a quest slot, which would even though you and I might call it a bit of an oversight, if we're looking at the other decks that are brought in the 3rd and 4th slot, which is Druid and Hunter, maybe Quest Warlock is not actually that good.
That's fair enough to say that, yeah. It depends on how you feel about those matchups. I don't think either is especially disastrous, but based on the play we've been seeing so far, maybe Quest Warlock hasn't hit its final iteration in terms of build or in terms of playstyle, but I agree, at the moment, the Highlander Hunter and the Druid do feel like they're in a pretty good spot. So the Quest Warlock could be a sticking point for Flurry, unless he's able to get a nice early win. We're going to be starting things off, I believe, with the Tempo Demon Hunter Mirror once again, and taking a look at the lists for both of these players. I wonder if it will be anything similar to the previous matchup we saw, where Chonsu had a pretty clear advantage in terms of the tech cards. But I think we are seeing, for the most part, Vulpera Scoundrel Gamers for both of these guys.
Yes, 2 of for Kin and 1 of for Flurry, but Flurry's also got the 1 of Sightless Watcher, which is a card that you're not really on board with. It is just 1 copy, though, to make room for also a Blowtorch Saboteur. So Flurry's he's dipping his toes into all of the pools a little bit. Almost all the tech inclusions here. He's just not running Spectral Sight, which is a copy of.
Yeah, it's quite an impressive maneuver to stretch his toes that far apart to get them in 3 separate pools all at the same time. But I commend him for his effort. Again, I'm also generally a fan of having lists with more 2-ofs, because, you know, some of the cards are just better. But I guess I can understand with Blowtorch Saboteur being a little bit of a tech thrown in there, that if you didn't have that, you would have 2 of either of the other 2 cards. I'm not... don't hate Flurry's lists at all either. And for the most part, it's still doing the classic Demon Hunter thing. I think it very much more comes down to the playstyle for these players, which I think for Flurry and Kin has, even with these tempo decks, been very much on point.
Yeah, I have been on board with the lines that they've been going for. And it's quite funny that we have identified all of these 3 drops as tech cards, whereas Frozen Shadow Weaver is considered core now, because in the early iterations of the decks, that was the tech card for the mirror. But because our meta has settled to the point where it's always a warrior ban most of the time, and then it's going to be Demon Hunter queued up at some point, you're very likely to run into the mirror. And at that point, Frozen Shadow Weaver just becomes core because of how disruptive it is against fellow Demon Hunters.
Yeah, I think there's just no discussion about it at this point, especially when, you know, what cards would you be playing to replace it when you're already playing Vulpera Scoundrel in your Demon Hunter list, which is, you know, quite clearly not an especially good card in the list. It's just played to bulk out the numbers and give you some potential guesswork your opponent has to make, like when we saw yesterday with, what was it, Commander Illidari, or whatever the card was, that messed up a little bit with one of the players. But before that, we're jumping into the mirror, and already I'm thinking Flurry has got himself a premium hand without even looking at mulliganing anything.
Yeah, it's just a curve. He's got the Battle Fiend. He can coin either of the 3 drops. If we're drawing a parallel between the Saboteur and Frozen Shadow Weaver, we like to see that going into a turn where they really want to use their hero power. But depending on what Flurry sees from Kin, he could also just coin his own Overseer into the pressure rolling. But Kin's hand is no slouch either. The Battle Fiend on 1 also unlocks the I-Beam on the leftmost side.
Yeah, one of the swing cards that you're looking for, and I can understand why Flurry is going for the mulligan of the Blowtorch Saboteur. It's a good card in the matchup, but it's not such an extreme tech card or so powerful in the matchup as the Frozen Shadow Weaver is. So I can understand, well, looking for that as one of the cards, but also looking for Umberwing or maybe a Beaming Side as well.
Yes. And it's already a tough decision for Flurry. He could go for maximum tempo, play his own Battle Fiend, and just double slice away the Battle Fiend. In this matchup, I've seen Twin Slice used basically as a backstab pretty often. But I like this more measured approach of holding on to the second slice so that he could pair it with his Satyr Overseer.
And that is something for Kin to throw down at the very least. Makes the turn, again, a lot more difficult for Flurry, because if that hadn't come down, he was looking, I think, at a pretty clear coin Overseer plus second slice.
Right.
Now he does not have that same liberty.
Ooh. I mean, I was looking at the deviation for this turn before the I-Beam was drawn. It was to go Battle Fiend, Hero Power, second slice,
Yep.
swing the tempo back, and then he could have coin with the Overseer for next turn. But now, he can save the coin, he could just I-Beam this away, still develop his Battle Fiend, and then the Overseer with second slice could be used on the next turn, and if he draws one of the premium 5 drops, he could coin that out later on.
This, again, is interesting, though, because I think, you know, we talk over and over again about the powerful turns to go for Frozen Shadow Weaver, and it feels like overall 3 is good, but mainly if they have an Umberwing already equipped to go for the Satyr Overseer. Now I wonder if Flurry is saving it for turn 5, after he goes for Satyr Overseer, coin Hero Power, and then Frozen Shadow Weaver the turn after.
That definitely seems like what he's gearing up for me. It's a delicate balance between playing for your best tempo and playing for the best disruption of what your opponent has, right? Because in other instances, I think Flurry would just want to go Frozen Shadow Weaver and say coin I-Beam here, so he can preserve his Volpera Scoundrel. But because there's that other factor you need to think of disruption, then it's not so certain.
Well, I think now that he's got the second one, that actually is the play that I like the most, of going for the freeze coin I-Beam. But, whoa, this is yet another deviation, not freezing the face in the mirror. What?
I'm shocked.
Illegal.
You never do that, right?
You never do this. But what is the reasoning? What are the benefits of going for it this way around? It's not just a mistake.
I'm pressed to think of something. Especially since the I-Beam could very well be locked in the middle now. Follow up. So Flurry's essentially giving Kin a turn to respond.
Now, of course, heading into turn 5, we are seeing no questions about it. You have to go for the freeze face here.
Hey, I got you, friend.
Yes. Still, coin the I-Beam if he likes. It protects the beaming sidekick. And essentially passes Kin's turn.
Maybe that's why it's called Beaming Sidekick. Not because it's smiling, but because it blasts its opponents with an I-Beam.
I-Beaming Sidekick! I want to play that card. Looking at... Finn is just pre-equipping here. It's pretty healthy. I don't mind it.
Yeah.
I'm just so shocked at what Flurry's holding this coin for. I don't...
Yeah. I was left a little bit perplexed by that play as well. I think that of all the 3 plays he had, they're the 3 major ones of freeze coin I-Beam with freezing the face, or the Satyr Overseer, or the play he made. That one was the weakest out of them.
I'd agree. I really like using I-Beam for maximum tempo in the early game, just as another efficient removal spell.
Yeah.
One of the few that doesn't interact with freeze. Ugh. Terrible in here.
You can still fill out most of his mana fairly well. Get the heal in, which is a huge deal here because his main threat at the moment is just dying to damage from Flurry's side of the board.
And it's another question of how many Warglaive charges you want to use, but given that he's got 6 damage on it, I really like that at least 1 charge goes to the face.
Skull of Gul'dan feels like a pretty premium option when you're this low on cards. Oh, yes.
And again, Flurry might not even get an I-Beam target. Could end up I-Beaming his own minion to unlock the skull from the left side. I just feel like there were instances he could have used this on Volpera Scoundrel or even earlier.
Yeah, for sure. It's one mana, deal 3 damage. That's insane.
This Altruist looks pretty good to me.
Yeah, it does. I was wondering if you could ever go greedy with the Skull of Gul'dan to juice it up for the win, but you're taking too much damage. I am getting way too greedy for this match.
It's a full clear. He does not have to face tank the Volpera.
Oh.
They're
Flurry
stuck
is
though.
gonna have to get something very impressive indeed off this skull.
Job's done.
Another skull. Okay, that's pretty
Ooh.
impressive.
Not bad.
Oh, too expensive. But King can just go 3+5, swing away.
Is that better than Umberwing? Probably. Yeah, he's so close to lethal. It's got to be better.
I grow impatient. All I see is weakness.
It also frees up the ability for Umberwing Skull next turn.
True.
We're with you.
Oh, it's so expensive to free up the other skull.
So, I mean, he could just play it here.
Okay.
It's something to consider, at the very least.
So
but
if
that
you
doesn't
play it
sound great.
here, what are you looking to pick up? There's only one I-beam left. It's in hand.
Yeah.
Thinking he needs some Altruist magic.
Hey, I got you,
The
friend.
missing damage.
Okay, this is smart, going for it from the
Sure.
right-hand side.
Not there.
Time grows short.
Whoa. For next turn.
Job's done.
Yeah, I like this. I don't think he can bother spending any of the damage into the 2/2 because if Kin kills him next turn,
Oh.
that 2/2 is only dealing 2 in total anyway. Whoa!
That, however, is the punish. That is the top deck to close out the game. Exact lethal for Kin. And I think it takes a well-deserved win in the first game of this series.
Really did. Would not have expected to see that pan out between a player that had both Frozen Shadow Weaver versus one who didn't.
Yep. I think that there is a reason why you just always see Frozen Shadow Weaver go face in the Demon Hunter Mirror. I get what he was going for. The thinking was turn 5 is where the actual threats come down in terms of when your hero wants to attack, because you're looking at Twin Slice plus the Glaive-bound Adept. You're looking at the War Glaives, of course, as well as the main 2 threats. Whereas on turn 4, they're more likely to go with something like Kane, I guess. But even then, there's still a lot of powerful plays they can make that all involve attacking with their hero.
Yeah. And I think Flurry might have had a bit too much patience with how he used his coin and particularly
Yep.
the I-beam. I get that you can tunnel on I-beam for the healing factor. It could be a surprise for your opponent, but I tend to think of the card more as just a Holy Smite with an upside rather than, say, a healing touch with an upside. I couldn't think of a just heal for 3, a renew that removes
Right.
a minion. I think the removal part of it is way more important in the matchup, and the healing is just an out that you think of when you're already on the back foot late into the game.
Agree completely, and we'll have to see if Flurry can kind of regather himself heading into the next game to try and take a win. But I mean, not even want to expose my bias too much here. I'm kind of praying for Kin on this one. I feel like he deserves a break and deserves at least one win here in the round robin for GM. And so with a win on the table, it's looking very good for him to try and turn things around. But before we can find out if he's able to get that first win on the table in terms of series, we're going to go to a quick break before we come back with the conclusion. You're watching Hearthstone Grandmasters, and this is our second match of the day. Flurry versus Kin is the match that is currently going on. Mostly Division A matches today, and this one for Kin has no ramifications in terms of his place overall. At 0-6 at the moment, he is guaranteed bottom 1 actually at the moment, no matter what happens. So he is potentially facing relegation after he plays the relegation bracket next weekend. But for Flurry here, down in 6th place as it currently stands, he still has 2 more matches to play. And if he wins both of them, he is absolutely 100% guaranteed to be out of any danger. Even if he wins this one, it's looking very good for him. But it needs to start with a win here, because otherwise things are starting to look a little scary.
Because if he does drop both of those matches, suddenly there are people overtaking him. We saw from Chonsu just a while ago. That win put him up 3-4 score despite him having a very weak start. So there is a lot on the line still for Flurry here. And Kin, pride is always a thing. And, you know, I am going to get on board with you. And despite being a fan of Flurry, I got to root for Kin in this one because this guy deserves a win for the quality of play he's been putting out.
I honestly believe him to be one of the best GMs in APAC at the moment, and I don't think that his results reflect his level of play, as I have said many, many times. But going into this next game, it is going to be difficult for him to get the win, as those classes, I think, were ever so slightly wrong on the left-hand side with Warlock and Hunter. It is, of course, the Demon Hunter and the Druid. And even though Kin has got himself the Glowfly Swarm to get things rolling, which is the premium card in the matchup, I don't know if that's going to be enough on its own.
Yeah, he's not hit the card draw, and we often say it's got to be the cheese out Glowfly on turn 3 with that Fungal Ramp hand, or survive until Mount Seller. This hand is like, you can get the early Glowfly, but it's at the cost of half of the Glowflies because he's not gotten any of the card draw and already is putting out a Power of the Wild to try and stem the bleeding.
Exactly, and I mean, oh my god, worst of all here for Flurry. There are so many strong plays here for Flurry. Coin Satyr Overseer double Twin Slice was insane to just go all out on the board. But he's taking a slightly more measured approach, saving the coin for something a little bit more important.
Right. This approach, I'm not actually on board with. I tend to find that going ham against Druid is the best way to essentially kill them before they get anything going. If you're saving the coin for Warglaves of Azeroth, I think it's a little bit counterintuitive, because if you play the Overseer early, they have to answer it with a removal. The more removal they use, the less Glowflies they have.
I get your point, but I actually like this for a couple of reasons. One, as you mentioned, fantastic into a Glowfly. And second of all, you're now playing the Satyr Overseer into turn 4, which is a much, much more important turn for the Druid. Be it Fate Glowfly or Overgrowth. This is the turn that is very unlikely to have removal, and then you end up in a situation like this, where Flurry is just running away with the game.
Yep, ends up covering all of his bases, and yeah, the timing of it, I forgot to think about. You make a very good point that it's the turn where, because Druid's only running 1 Wild Growth and double Overgrowth, they would more likely go for a Bog Beam or a Wrath to shore up that mana, but there is no turning back from this board. Kin is not running Starfall. 7 damage! Battlefiend! Hello?
This is a game appropriate of that very cool 1000-win portrait for Illidan there, because Kin just got absolutely orbital blasted out of existence in this game. This was not even anything. And,
okay, I thought Flurry himself was laughing, but he just had a bit of a cough there. Never mind. But I wouldn't forgive him for laughing there. I don't think that's BM. That is just knowing that you absolutely windmill slammed all the lights out of your opponent.
Yeah, nothing at all that Kin could have done in that game, whether he goes for the Overgrowth there or the Glowfly Swarm. Obviously, if your opponent has coin Warglaves, you're just losing, but I think you got to play to that out. Maybe you can win back the board in some way. And I don't know, even then, the argument that he could have held back the Power of the Wild for another Glowfly, I think, again, is just somewhat counterintuitive, because then you're just sacrificing an earlier minion, which is probably better anyway. Just a bad beat for Kin.
Indeed, but nothing that you can feel is unexpected in that particular matchup. And now that the Demon Hunters are out of the way, we get into the meat. That's really just how the cookie crumbles in this meta, right? Despite us having a very volatile meta in terms of the last two decks remaining, and we're already 7 weeks into GM. There's been rounds of nerfs, so it's never really static, except for Illidan's dominance.
Exactly. I believe that was a slight error on the graphic there with the Warlock, when it is, as GM mentioned, both Demon Hunters having won, which means with the Druid having lost for Kin, we're jumping into a mirror. It's been a bit too long for me, Gia, since I've been disgusted by the Druid Mirrors.
I mean, weren't you a bit disgusted by that Demon Hunter draw as well?
Yeah, but it's a different kind of disgust.
Sure. Well, Kin has the premium opener, lacking only the Glowfly Swarm, but Flurry has this Mount Cellar. If he can find some pieces of ramp, there could be the beginnings of a powerful swing. Oh no.
Bad news, but not the end of the world.
Insane top deck for Flurry. Oh my gosh.
Okay, well, you know, we're kind of reaching an equilibrium here with, I have to say, what I just said was nonsense. Flurry's in a great position here.
Yeah. He's got the ramp. Oh, okay, never mind.
Okay, yeah, I take that back again. Now Kin is in a great position with the early Glowfly Swarm. That seems to trump the early exotic Mount Cellar most of the time.
It does. I mean, technically, Flurry could get the Mount Cellar online next turn, but it involves Coin Overgrowth now, then Innervate Mount Cellar, which will only be active with a Moonfire, because the Bog Beams won't be active unless you have 7 natural mana crystals.
I mean,
Flurry could be thinking, a 5/8 is just good?
Exactly, and in this situation, it's actually not that bad, because if Kin goes for...
Innervate!
Okay, yeah, it's pretty bad, because he's just going to lose the game before that happens.
Yeah, but I see what you're saying. If Kin had just gone for the Overgrowth there, then Flurry plays his Mount Cellar onto an empty board, and then Kin is disrupted from just going for Glowfly. He might have to default to a removal plan, and as we saw, there wasn't that much removal there for Kin, just the Wrath. So that Innervate was an insane top deck. Every top deck this game so far has been pretty insane, except this Rising Winds.
And I mean, it's not bad, because every other card in his hand can be played next turn. So he's very much on the pray there's no Savage Raw game plan here, and then he can swing things back. I don't think he should be using too many resources here.
Yeah. I can get behind using 1 resource, because that plays around 1 Savage Roar for lethal.
Fair. Yeah, okay, I'm on board. Be it Savage Roar or Crystal Power. Probably Savage Roar, actually. I don't think you need that to win the game afterwards. Oh no, wait, you still die if you do that, right?
You go down to 28. You'd be plus hero power. You'd be alive at 1, but that's still pretty scary because you're not guaranteed to heal on the next turn.
Yeah.
Because he is using this crystal power. In any case, I fully expect Kin to start cycling. I was thinking he would look for payoff spells there, but the hand does have double overflow. This
yeah.
looks fine.
He only had 1 cycle effect he could go for with the mana available, so it's like pretty niche big benefits or just an overall stronger game plan, which I'm on board with.
Of course you play the one off the top.
Tilt the heck out of your opponent.
Goes off.
Yep.
So there's a consideration where you point the Bog Beams, because Diving Griffin changes things. If you got the Griffin, you'd rather have Moonfire the 3/5 and Bog Beam 2/2s. But in this case, I think removing several minions guaranteed versus removing the 1/3/5 is more powerful.
Agreed. Especially as he's got a few chances left to hit the Diving Griffin. I like that he's going this way as well, because it means if Zixor comes down, he can still go Bog Beam on the 3/5.
Right?
Giving
and
himself...
taunting up the Mukla. Yeah.
Yep, that's smart too.
Protects his Mount Cellar from dying to these 2/2. Oh, okay. Well, the Zixor showed up at the very last moment, so you can't fault Flurry for going about the removal the way he did. And this is still a terrible spot for Kin.
Order, lol.
And so now he does have to start cycling and searching for the Savage Roars. Otherwise, the Mount Seller gets left up.
Okay, probably looking to set up. Yeah, I mean, I was going to say he could go for a Soul of the Forest this turn, but I mean, that just quite clearly doesn't win the game, does it?
Not unless he gets an attack buff of his own.
Yeah.
It's worth noting that Kin only runs one Savage Roar to begin with. This is a list that I think Blitzchung was also running with the double Wraths 1 Roar, which I've heard debate sides of, that people like cutting 1 Roar lately because the card gets clunky, but I think that having that consistency is what I would prefer in this matchup, whereas there's a ton of removal spells to begin with and a ton of cycle.
Clears up as much as it will allow him to dump some cards to set up for an overfly, I guess potentially on the following turn, but even just the Rising Winds alone is insane. Sorry.
Probably not over this turn, but it will definitely be a win for Flurry in the next turn.
The outs for Kin, I'm kind of struggling to even think of, like Ysera plus Overgrowth. Oh, sorry, Ysera plus Ironbark. Sorry, can't come down on the same turn. If he just goes for Ysera, he likely dies if it comes off the top.
It's just not there.
Yeah.
Flurry hits a buff, set up the 2-turn lethal. I think there is zero reason to trade into the one lowly Treant.
And while with caster vision and being a little bit more results oriented, the play you suggested, or when Kin went for the Overgrowth of instead trying to find Savage Roar, starts to become a little bit more tempting as the right play.
Yeah.
But of course, Kin did not know, and there's no way he could have predicted that Flurry can dump literally his with a Mount Seller on the following turn.
And at that point, I hadn't realized Kin only runs one Savage Roar, so it was very unlikely. But that just happens. Another orbital, what did you call it? Orbital smack out of the face of the planet.
Orbital.
Flurry versus Kin.
Yeah, like an orbital strike, like just being space blasted.
Just planet, and Kin is the Death Star.
Yeah, exactly. Kin is well and truly the older run of Hearthstone at the moment.
Oh, he did nothing wrong.
Exactly, yeah.
We'll of course have one last chance to get the win over Flurry in the series. Flurry has his Quest Warlock remaining, which I feel is a deck that you can get a very significant advantage with for knowing the deck more so than being rewarded for the draws, which, to be fair, that kind of happens with Druid.
And if it could get any worse for Kin, who is doing a stellar job of trying to stay alive, I will say the overflow off the top is just the absolute final nail on the coffin.
It's just so painful to watch that Flurry didn't have the Savage Roar immediately. Kin's like, just kill me already. It had to happen over 3 turns.
Die?
Not even a Mount Seller to beg for all the Griffins in the world.
Yeah, absolutamente nada. Kin throws it down, and Flurry one game away now from getting himself up to that much safer record of 3-3, potentially ending up at 4-3, depending on how his second match goes tomorrow. And for Kin, once again, it does not matter for him in terms of his overall position. He just wants to win one game in the round robin. Because I have not spoken to Kin personally. I do not know what his mindset is as a player. I hope that he believes in himself as he should, as a lot of the other very respected players in the Hearthstone community do. But you have to imagine that going 0-7, even if you believe in your plays, it's got to be a bit of a knock to your confidence.
For sure. It takes such a toll on your morale, and we've been seeing this from other GMs that have been more vocal on Twitter when they take these losses, even though they know they're putting in the prep work in and they're playing to their best of the ability, they begin to doubt and ask, was I doing that much worse than my actual opponent so far? And the toughest part about Hearthstone is that you can't always tell, right? The best reference you have is your practice partners and people you respect, and they can tell you perhaps this line is better, but in the most difficult situations, it's hard to find a line that is objectively the best to take. And when you start nitpicking those, you can wonder whether you have the good enough instinct to be in GM. But you know what? I'm going to say it. I believe in Kin.
I believe as well, Gia. And with a hand like this, I think he's in a good spot to keep the pressure high enough to take this win, because we are looking at a very powerful curve indeed. My goodness.
That is right. Starting off with the Fairy Dragon, acted with by the Nether Breath or Mortal Coil. Vulnerable later on to the Rain of Skies, etc., but that's going to have to be a combo with Moarg Artificer.
Already interesting, though, for Kin, just going with the tap at all, because Moarg Artificer on 2 is generally something you just don't do. Because you want to save it for the Nether Breath, the Dark Skies, the Rain of Fire for the clears. That was the best Moarg on 2 I've seen in a while.
Yeah, it lines up pretty well. I don't know if Kin had anything outside of Kill Command that deals with it without using the Fairy Dragon.
It's Corrosive Breath is like it. That's the only thing. Or Zephyr's Backstab.
Very niche. But I can't fault Flurry for thinking that this card is too crucial to hold on to for healing later on. And he probably expected to have drawn Dark Skies by now, but it's still not there.
Yeah, he has absolutely nothing. That is a garbage hand. Get it out of here. Let's redraw a new hand and see if he can find himself the Aranassis, hopefully for his sake to heal up. Because, to be perfectly honest, if he doesn't, he's dead in 2 turns.
Yeah! I mean, he had drawn one Aranassi at the beginning for heal. The other was in the opener and didn't get the heal off of it. They're now both back in the deck. And Kin knows that for a fact. Because by observing the healing that came at the beginning and what didn't come off the plot twist, you can have a good read.
Okay, important. Very important. Full clear available should Flurry desire it.
Yeah, there's going to be a 2-1 left. He's just going to twist again, hoping that he can get back Nether Breath with Moarg and also additional Aranassis.
Oh, gee, this is an exciting game because both players kind of low-key hit the nuts with double plot twist for Flurry and getting a few Aranassis along the way.
I would argue that the double plot twist isn't so nutty in this matchup. It's insane in the mirror for sure, but I think Flurry would rather have hit his removal, maybe a tiny Nether Wing.
I mean, he kind of did though, right? Because it's only turn 5 now. He had Dark Skies when he needed it to clear off. He had a Nether Breath if he'd needed it earlier on.
What has been nutty is that he was able to get the Aranassis on top of that. So the healing shored up the 1-turn delayed removal, as I would call it.
Kin now, however, on the backswing, has lethal setup in his own right. Zephyr's Fireball, even if there's a complete board clear, will get the job done.
Flurry has Ooze and Nether Breath.
Yeah.
But no Moarg to pair with the Nether Breath. He was really hoping to hit it for the 0 mana. That would have been an insane swing.
Yeah, or just anything a bit more bigger, right? A bit more bigger.
A little bit or bigger.
Exactly. But it's still very, very close indeed for Kin. He just needs some decent plays. That looks good to me, just to throw down on this turn.
Seen Zephyr's held in this type of matchup for guaranteed burst that goes through taunt. So we could see just Abyssal Summoner and Soulfire.
Yeah. I think the tap is too risky.
Yeah. This defends against the Dino Tamer brand. And is just out of range of a clean Tiamat. Disaster! Well, okay, maybe not. It's Zephyr's turn?
Right, like, Zephyr's Holy Nova? I mean, you want Consecrate here more than Holy Nova, which I guess it would probably offer you.
Yeah, because he's full health, right?
Yeah.
Consecrate's strictly better.
There we go.
Or Doomhammer!
Oh.
No, that would shut off his mana for next turn.
Oh, yeah. Tempting, though, for sure.
Yeah, for sure. I've seen Raven take that in this matchup.
Right, the lethal is set up for Kin. Flurry needs an answer, which already just in hand he has with a measly Aranasi Broodmother.
Out of Nether Breaths too, I think. Or
Yeah.
just the one remaining. Gonna have to taunt. Question is whether he commits a Soulfire as well.
And so close to the lethal for Kin. Next turn sets it up again. Even if the board is fully cleared, heal has to come down for Flurry.
Yeah, and it's crucial that he saved the Bran here, because that can go face past this twisting Nether. The Nether
Yeah.
for 0 could have been potentially huge for Flurry, but he's got no taunt to develop alongside it.
He could still get it. We're looking at tap into
Right.
A big taunt, and Alex Straza to heal back up to 15 as well.
Uh-huh. There are outs.
There are big outs.
Swing-worthy outs. That's a big one, so he can go Nether and play the Abyssal Summoner for a 6/6 taunt. Oh yeah, at that point, there's no point in going for the Nether because
Sure.
the
Yep.
most he could additionally develop is a Nether Wing with the mana saved, and he does not want to damage himself anymore.
Oh no.
Life and
Yep.
hope.
Just like, look at that.
Whoa!
You definitely don't want to play
No,
Rosari for the wrong person.
The worst dragon he could possibly get.
Uh-huh.
And he gets a
How did he-
2/3 with lifesteal. What is this paladin garbage?
Imagine.
Oh.
So
Flurry has a chance to win the game here. He could actually
Yeah.
pull this back.
I'm looking at a Malagos this turn.
If he taps into Alex
Ah,
Straza,
okay.
he has lethal.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's insane. Yeah, the Malagos doesn't quite work out. There's no way to get rid of the I don't know. Was the Malagos and the Mortal Coil on the Alex Straza with the trade of the Tutu that bad? Oh, it was one card off.
It was definitely tempting. But what now for Flurry? Moog Soulfire?
Yeah,
Ugh.
terrible, but
I think it's the
all
only
the
play.
other plays that remove the Alex give up his board or his health total.
Yeah.
Oh, he wanted that for healing as well.
I mean, that's
Crazy.
not just unlucky, it's worth pointing out. There was big thinking to go for this play first for Flurry. Obviously, it gave him outs to hit like the Nether Breath for one of the extra cards by drawing with the Mortal Coil, so this is definitely not strictly wrong, but it's a potential downside of his play.
Kin has a 1-4 to win on the spot
Oh my god. I can't watch.
because the alternatives are so awkward, right? The abrasive worm,
Yeah.
short of clearing the 6/6. I can't look.
Oh,
Oh, one of the worst targets. First has got to be approaching active now. That is healing. Gives Flurry a little bit of leeway.
that's
Ooh,
an
Zephyrus
active
is active.
Zephyrus. This isn't lethal. No, not Wind Fury. Yeah, no, nothing gets there.
I don't see it. Zephyrus doesn't read Moarg as well, so it won't
Yeah,
give
yeah.
buffed up AoE in this situation.
So what is the best play? He could hit Holy Fire.
That is not in standard.
Oh yeah, you're right. Of course.
This is my suggestion.
What does it even give here? I'm stumped. Okay, healing. You'll take that.
Soul. Yeah.
I think you just take the healing touch and trade. Oh, but it's not A good
You
use
can't
of
give away
mana,
your
huh?
taunt, right?
Okay, and then it's just the Siphon. This has been so weird.
Zixor, Bran, still not lethal. Oh! Kill command even as well.
Does he just ship the Bran face then? But you don't even set up for a hero power lethal after that, and it leaves a Moarg on board. So...
Well, he could go Zixor trade and then Dinotamer Bran, and then he has hero power kill command
Right.
lethal.
Right. Yeah, I like the sound of that.
Oh my god, this Nazari.
I'm seeing a weird world where Flurry stabilizes, tries to get his own lethal,
Right.
and then gets smacked with the Nazari for defensive capability. That can't be right. There's no way. There's no way. I don't think that draws anything anymore.
I don't think it does either. Disaster. I mean, 2/1/1 imps if you want that, but
Huh? So we're just looking at another Aranasi. A Tempo Morg?
I don't like the sound of any of those things, but
So many
I think that's it, right?
possibilities.
Incredibly tense. What's the healing left for Flurry now if the other Aranasi has been played? Zephyrus used, Nether Breath used.
I think there's one
Alex-
Nether Breath left.
Yeah, okay. One Nether Breath with the Moarg is a big deal. But the Alex is gone as well.
Yeah.
How many blocks for this dino have there been this game? That's insane.
Unbelievable. So that is guaranteed Zixor Prime off of
Huge.
the draw now. Unplayable this turn, sadly, but still a huge deal.
This is a huge loss of tempo for Kin, but he has set it up so that all the taunts can be dealt with by Zixor next turn. If there's any left,
I don't think
I
there's
don't
any
think
left.
there are.
Yeah. Whoa!
Okay. No, the only target is his own Morg?
Fine. Take it. You need the heal here. He knows he's dead to Dinotamer Bran. The thing is as well that
Is that winning him the game though?
if Flurry can survive just for another
right.
couple turns, he's got his
Represent.
own... Oh yeah, this is smart. This is much better. But he can hit his own Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, importantly.
Very true. And Kin's Zephyrus has been used.
I mean, he could just hit lethal in the next couple of turns. Rain of Fire, Soulfire, he's getting there.
And we know from Kin's warrior play versus Warlock that he's very aware of how to play around the lethals. I'm so excited to see if this Nozari will actually be relevant for healing capability. It's pretty crazy, especially since there's an equal threat of Dragon Queen. But for now, we're gonna see the Zixor. Most likely.
Yep.
And then Flurry, if he hits the Dragon Queen, he just goes Nether Dragon Queen.
That's potentially just a game-winning swing on its own if he doesn't die on the
Yeah.
following turn.
For sure. But Kin has Varanus and potential to unleash the Hound. This is crazy.
So that is now 12 burst damage. Got to keep that in the back of our mind.
Oh my gosh.
Dragon Queen Alexstrasza, final
last
card.
And he cannot discount it.
He can... Oh, needs more mana. He's one mana off going Rain of Fire, Mortal Coil, and then going Twisting Nether Alexstrasza.
I think for now he just goes Rain of Fire, Crazy Netherwing. Oh!
How much... I mean, he's dead
No,
if
but-
he does that. He just dies.
Yeah, he's dead to Bran kill command. For 11 exactly. But if he nethers this turn, then he's not buying himself a swing. Oh wow, this is very smart from Flurry.
Smart, but...
Yeah.
Not quite smart enough.
Yeah. That saved him versus Bran plus Corrosive Breath, I think. But it doesn't get there against Bran with Kill Command. My god, what a exciting game.
That was brutal for Flurry at the end, Gia. I think he gave himself such a good chance of holding back the game. You can see at the end there, holding back the Twisting Nether for the entire game, even though there were multiple strong opportunities to use it. The big one being when he played the Dark Skies instead of it to clear one of the biggest boards from Kin, allowed him the out of the ultimate swing turn of 0 mana Twisting Nether, Alex Straza, to try and just go for a counter lethal. I think it was an excellently played game from Flurry, and I'm kind of sad it didn't work out.
Yeah. Honestly, I was happy from Kin as well. The patience from Dino Tamer Bran is not something you see very often, but he knows that's the only damage that he had left after having used Zephyrus and the Storm Hammer outside of Kill Command and Corrosive Breath. That's the only big one that Flurry could not interact with. After you get rid of the Dino Tamer Bran, if there's healing on the other side, suddenly Kin is threatening much less every turn, and Flurry doesn't have to be scared. So that was mind-blowing, both sides. I'm so happy it panned out the way it did. I just wish we saw the Nozari at some point.
I know. I'm sure Flurry will be having a chuckle when he sees that one come down, because, to be perfectly honest, I think he could have got a read that it was there. What dragons would you not play? It's like Nozari and Deathwing are the only two that have that big of a downside to go for at that point.
All gonna come down now to Druid versus Quest Warlock and Kin. I feel like we've been seeing him get pieces of the puzzle, the card draw, the ramp, but then the rest of it doesn't seem to come together.
Well, not the best start at all here for Flurry, whereas Kin on the other side, depending on what this Fungal Fortunes can pick up, is looking premium.
I feel like Kin's been discarding at least 1 minion off of every Fungal Fortunes we've seen him play on stream.
Oh,
That's
finally.
a good one.
Yeah, but Flurry, this hand is not it at all. Even Sense Demons, I think, is... You know, it's really not that much better than just tapping on turn 3, to be honest.
In this particular matchup, it's relevant to fish for your Moarg to help Rain of Fire deal with a Dark Skies board. Sorry, a Glowfly board.
Although, as it currently stands, Kin has got that hand he had last time where he hit the perfect start, got all the ramp, but then just did nothing. He had no benefit, no payoff for all his ramp. And unless the Rising Winds can find something, or of course the natural draws, we're looking for a repeat here.
I feel like Kin is cursed with Druid, but it's not all bad news yet. He's got several draws. There's the one that he had this turn because this was a definite overgrowth. Then he can go with the Rising Winds. And there's so much potential to draw good cards off the top. Both Mount Sellers, both Glowfly, Overflow, a bit awkward, but it gives him card draw guaranteed, and the other Fungal.
This turn for Flurry is so weird. To be honest, I think we're looking at Nether Breath face, unless he wants to take the overdraw, because the game plan, I think, is fairly clearly, unless you're being hit with a huge Mount Seller next turn, coin Abyssal into Abyssal to try and counter pressure for the win that way.
I agree.
In which case, playing a Moarg here is disastrous. All of a sudden, your opponent has the ability to clear off these big 8/8 taunts.
Completely agree. Don't want to be soul firing either, because that doubly reduces the size of the Abyssal Summoner. So I'm on board. Sign me up for the Nether Breath face.
Almost out of time.
Assert dominance, Flurry. Let's go. I love it.
Yeah, I think this is absolutely the play. He's not winning if there's a huge Mount Seller turn anyway. And oh my god, Kin finally, 6 series into the round robin, gets a break. Oh my goodness.
But even then, what does he want to Bog Beam? Okay, of course this is still a lot of development, but it's not ideal. Bog Beam is just a reroll to get a better beast than either the Salhet or the Scarab.
Do you hit your Porcupine? Like, on average, you are not adding more health to the board, I don't think.
Okay.
In terms of Dark Skies.
And more minions is good.
Right.
Oh
Okay.
Not all that bad though, because Flurry doesn't have a board clear.
Yeah, there's no real answer. Coin Keledan is actually quite good here, though.
Yeah.
Or Moarg into Soulfire, which is a very valid alternate line.
Allows him to tap at the end of the turn as
Yeah.
well. But I like the Keledan. Saves the Moarg for Dark Skies if he draws it next turn.
Yeah.
How was this so disastrous for Kin, even though we thought it was finally him getting a break?
I don't know what to tell you, Gia. This is Hearthstone just taunting him now. It's like, yeah, look at this great hand I'm giving you. Aren't you lucky? Oh,
Okay.
okay. And he's actually going to have stuff to Bog Beam afterwards as well.
He could very well be facing down a huge taunt in the meantime. And that's it for the card draw for Kin. He's not hit his overflows. As far as we can see it. It's a weird spot where this doesn't look good enough to Dark Skies, and it's also not that threatening, so Flurry's going to take the time to develop instead. And Kin is given a second shot, but that's not a great spell to get here.
It's fine. He has the Power of the Wild. He has this huge development, the turn before Twisting Nether. This is the push that has to win him the game.
Give the man a Griffin, please! One time!
Somebody get this man a Griffin.
Yes!
Yay!
I've got powers, Daruk.
Redemption at long last.
Oh, I like this, taking the value
Yep.
trade that doesn't put the Porcupine in range of Crazed Netherwing, but still
Exactly.
preserves the most minions possible for Savage Roar. So, more Dark Skies is 8 procs, that's just 16 damage. Likely clears off, I'd wager 4 minions?
Gotta be honest, it didn't really look like Flurry was counting it before he threw it down, though.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wow. Still not lethal. That cycle.
It's close, but it's just not there.
More cycle! It's so expensive! Where are his overflows? Both Mount Sellers
Ysera,
used.
Overflow,
Ysera's the
Fungal
big one.
Fortunes. Ooh.
Let's not forget the Porcupine has a death rattle. The more
True.
that he buffs it.
The thing is, if he goes for Power of the World, then he can't use the hero power.
Yeah, I think
They
it's
can't
Roar
use the
here.
Savage Roar damage to take out the Moarg.
What to do?
I think he just goes Roar and use his hero attack to get rid of Moarg. Always threatening
Right.
because of Nether Breath. And then you just take the 10 to face, hope it gets there.
Time waits for no one.
I mean, he can have a pretty good read on no Nether Breath, or it would have come down instead of the Soulfire.
Sure. It's so scary to when you're playing against a deck with plot twists and just
Yeah.
the life tap. They can get it at any point. Such a weird pan out. So there's a guaranteed 5/5 taunt if he wants it,
Right.
or 6/6 if he taps first.
How many quest procs is it? Is it ever Abyssal Plot Twist?
many possibilities.
Or is that just not big enough?
The difference between 5 and 6 is relevant for the second Savage Roar, but Kin's only playing 1. So I think that's actually fine. Definitely can't play that, or he's dead.
Yep.
So if he plot twists, he can get Dark Skies. That can still clear everything. Or Nether Breath. That's a big one.
He isn't playing the taunt, though.
There's also a
Whiff.
chance of drawing
Whiff.
more Aranasis.
Whoa! just going
He's
again.
searching for the nether breath, but there's no time. This animation is the longest one in Hearthstone.
He can tap as well, but does he have time?
There's no time. There's a coil though. Did he get it in?
Oh,
Okay. Oh, plus one card. No more Savage Roar for Kin available. The overflows, the Ysera are in the bottom 11.
Glowfly, buff it, go face. This is the final chance for Kin to get there.
But we're looking at the Moarg Nether Breath on the other
No
side.
dragon!
No dragon! Still no dragon! He's dead!
If he plays Aranasi, he's alive
okay.
at 1 because the Death Rattle can't
Correct.
proc on the Porcupine.
Correct. And then for Kin, we could be looking at Crystal Power, your own minion for lethal.
Oh my god. That would be so sick.
Give this man a Crystal Power. He has to.
It's the
go for
only
taunt.
line.
How did it come to this? Iron Bark?
That's lethal!
It is! Yeah!
Kin's done it!
Woo! Wait, he's shaking his head. What he sees? Okay. Of course. Very simple. Oh my gosh. Kin has won his first series in round robin. He's still 8th place in Division A, but what a game. What a series there.
And I gotta be honest, based on the post-game celebrations we've seen from the other players, if Kin doesn't do a triple backflip here, I'm gonna be angry. Alright, you know what? Good enough.
Close your
You
eyes
still
and
got the
imagine
win.
it. Wow. Kin's
You got it.
understanding of how to play against Quest Warlock is impeccable, but also Flurry. So many good lines there. I think he was particularly playing well against the Hunter.
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I loved a lot of what I saw. I think that was overall one of the higher level series of Hearthstone that we've seen in the last few days. Very impressed indeed. It was that last game in the last couple of turns with the plot twists for Flurry where things got really complicated. Honestly, too many things to try and analyze completely in the very short amount of time that we had when he started trying to do his turn, because there was the play of just going for the taunt to try and protect himself that way. He dug for the the Nether Breath to try and keep himself alive that way. If he'd had time, maybe he would have been able to go for tap to find the survival that way. So many different things to consider.
Yeah.
But I agree. Overall, apart from just a rope turn where you have to just do stuff, it was a very good series.
Yeah, and he did end up getting the Mortal Coil at the very end there. And as far as I am concerned, even though these players played some excellent Hearthstone, I think that I deserve to be in top 5 moments, Daruk. I said, give this man a Griffin, and the game gave him a Griffin.
All right, I'll consider that one, Gia. I might have to make top 5 Gia calls for Griffins each week because somehow it just keeps happening every single time. And with the end of that series, while we are very happy, of course, for Kin taking a win, it is bad news indeed for Flurry. He is looking that a little bit closer towards 7th place, joining Kin, the player he just beat down in the bottom 2. But taking a look at the schedule for the rest of the matches today, that will definitely shape out how Division A is looking, because I believe with Surrender coming up later on today, that is going to have a big impact, along with Possessi, actually, who are both around a similar score to Flurry at the bottom of Division A.
So many implications, nearly infinite scenarios, because to me a couple hundred is infinite because my brain cannot count that high effects because of all the tiebreakers. So every single match today has a lot to play for. Frosty in particular at the end there, playing for his life in Grandmasters, and that one is a guarantee that if he loses, he is relegated. But up next, we have a top of the table match, a bit of a breather from all of this high stakes Hearthstone.
And there's still definitely something on the line, though, to be fair for these players. The top of Division A players who finish 1st and 2nd, I believe, both get a bye heading into the playoffs that will happen next week when we find out who will be sending to the global finals. And even aside from that, aside from the implications, I think we are due or guaranteed here a very, very good series of Hearthstone. Glory has obviously